Hello everyone, back to today's video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's video. This takes us to around the 28th of October. So high pressure going to be in control from start to finish during this period, sitting over or to the west of the UK. The exact position of this high pressure is going to make a big difference in terms of the feel of the weather. It's going to be quite warm over the weekend, getting cooler through the course of next week. And then we've still got this uncertainty about the last week of November. Do we take high pressure north? If we do, how far north do we take it? And do we pull down northerly winds? If we pull down northerly winds, will they be cool or will they actually be cold? So still uncertainty for the last week of October, and I'll bring you up to date with all of the very latest developments right now. So we're going to begin by just having a quick look at the tropical Atlantic, because there's nothing much going on there. So this is the latest from the National Hurricane Centre, and tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 48 hours. So at the moment, things are really quiet in the tropical Atlantic, and that's why we're not talking about that in the videos at this point. Still got a little way to run with the Atlantic hurricane season, so things might get going again over the next week or two. We'll have to wait and see. These are the GFS, these are the 500 millimeter height anomaly flowcharts from Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which you'll have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millimeters, 8,000 feet. Is an area in the absolute high pressure and low pressure being moved around by a jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to high pressure and blue extrapolates to low pressure. So the ECMWF in the 7 to 10 day time frame has this big ridge over and to the west of the country, a large area of high pressure through there, with the below average heights with this trough. Let's change the colour, through central parts of Europe and northern Europe as well. So the flow and the jet is going to be doing something a little bit like that. That's bringing cold air down into northern and eastern parts of Europe and central parts of Europe too. We're just on the periphery of that in the UK. We're close to that ridge of high pressure, but only very subtle adjustments would turn the wind into the north and bring us really quite a cold plunge of air. This is how the GFS is looking, and it's a little bit different. Still has that big ridge, of course, but the difference is that it's centred almost over the top of the UK, which means that trough is actually further east across eastern parts of Europe. And so the jet stream is doing something a little bit like that. Again, we are on periphery of quite a cold plunge that could be affecting eastern parts of Europe. But the emphasis with the GFS on mainly dry conditions. And whilst it probably will be quite chilly under that high pressure, probably not coming out overly cold. The coldest of the air being pushed down into northeastern, eastern parts of Europe. Notice that little blue area there in the middle of the tropical Atlantic. That might be the GFS picking up on some sort of tropical storm or tropical disturbance developing within the 7 to 10 day time frame. We'll have to see about that, of course. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation samples the next couple of weeks. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. We're looking at Boston in Lincolnshire today. So we're starting off close to average with the red line. Going to be turning a little bit warmer over the weekend. Temperatures will be lifting up potentially to upper teens Celsius. But then early next week, we get this drop in the temperature taking place just here. So it will go quite cool for the early part of next week. Middle of next week, try to see the temperature lift up a little bit again, and then we're into the last week of October, start of November. That's this period just here, and it looks like we're going cooler than average in that period. How cold do we get though? There's quite a bit of uncertainty about how low the temperatures will be going. So several of these ensemble members are keeping things not overly cold, but several of them are actually going down to quite a cold level, going down close to -5 at 850 HPA, at least for a time during the closing days of October, which is cold enough to be producing widespread night frost. There's still a bit of uncertainty about that last week of October. Loads of dry weather coming up as well over the next sort of week to 10 days, completely dry conditions. As we go into the final days of October and the start of November, there are an increasing number of precipitation spikes beginning to appear, so not only cooler, but possibly going a little bit more unsettled as well through the final closing days of October and the beginning of November. Temperature anomalies from the 18th through 26th of October coming out very close to average, probably still hinting at being a little bit above average. It's not a big deviation, but close to average to slightly milder than average precipitation, and still exceptionally dry. Look at that. The precipitation anomaly from the 18th to the 26th of October is very, very substantially drier than average for all parts of the UK and Ireland. This is how things are looking on Sunday then with the GFS. We've got high pressure building through the UK, lots of dry weather. There is a cold front moving into the northwest. That's probably bringing cloud and rain to Scotland and Northern Ireland. That will become an increasingly weak feature as it moves southeastwards through the day, but it will introduce cooler air from the northwest. So as we go through into Monday, the high pressure is centred to west of Ireland, bring cooler air around the top of this high pressure, so temperatures do drop through the early part of next week, becoming quite chilly. Up to the middle of next week, high pressure is sitting there just to the west of the UK, bringing down these rather cool north-northwesterly winds. Lots of dry weather coming up through the course of next week. It is a job to see any rain, really, throughout the whole of next week. It does look as though it could be exceptionally dry indeed. That takes us up to the end of next week. It's Friday, 26th of October. And just showing signs of trying to get the high pressure further northwards there. We're trying to get that high pressure up towards Greenland and Iceland, trying to force down colder air out of the Arctic in towards Scandinavia and central parts of Europe. Don't really take that high pressure far enough north to tap into true Arctic air. It is quite cold though with this high pressure, I think, by day 10, which is Sunday 28th of October. High pressure sitting there over the country, and I think it will probably be cold enough for widespread night frost, but the true sort of Arctic air is actually sliding down through Scandinavia and then down into northeastern and eastern parts of Europe, leaving us under this ridge of high pressure. In the more extended range, the high begins to break a little bit and we go into a slightly more unsettled spell as we get to the end of the GFS run. That is, as far as we can go, 384 hours away, Saturday, 3rd of November. Low pressure is just out west of the country. Notice quite a big blocking feature is developing to the north around Scandinavia and further north of that, and it is blocking off this low pressure in the Atlantic with the jet stream going down there. So it does turn more unsettled for GFS in the early part of November. It's relatively mild still at this point, but the high pressure is lurking there up to the northeast. That's starting to get quite interesting. ECMWF looks like that. So again, lots of high pressure dominating on Sunday, and the high pressure pulls out to the west of the UK early next week, brings down cooler air from the northern Atlantic, so the air is originating from like the south of Greenland and Iceland. Will be a rather chilly start to next week, but still with lots of dry weather. Notice this trough sinking back through Scandinavia, so more October Scandinavian snow cover is likely to be developing through the course of next week across Scandinavia and northeastern parts of Europe. We remain close to that ridge of high pressure. So let's get back to ECM. We remain under that ridge of high pressure, but as we get towards day 10, the high does go a little bit further northwards, actually, compared to what the GFS was showing. So that is the chart for day 10. The high pressure is still out to west of us, but it's sending a ridge a little bit further north, which does force this trough southwards in towards central parts of Europe, and that starts to turn the winds into a proper northerly. So that's going quite cold. The ECM goes quite cold by day 10, bringing a little bit of -5, 850 HPA air down across the country. So it does go really quite cold indeed by day 10 on the ECM. GFS doesn't go that far though and bring down those northerly winds. GM looking like that. High pressure dominating the weather over the next few days, it's going to be a case of high and dry again through the course of next week. We're going up to day 10, turning more unsettled actually with this deep area of low pressure forming to the north of Scotland, and this ridge building on the back side of this low pressure could possibly, as the low pushes into that direction towards Denmark, we could possibly start to see wind turning into proper northerly there, just a little bit beyond day 10. So the hints are still there of northerly winds through the final days of October, but just how far we go with those northerly winds remains to be seen. The GFS doesn't really show it on its operational run this morning, but the ECM and the GM are kind of hinting that we may get a northerly outbreak before the end of October. What we can say is it's going to be really dry, so just leave you with this. This is the 5-day accumulated precipitation forecast from the GFS for the next 5 days, starting today, Thursday 18th of October. And away from northwest Scotland, most parts of the country have no measurable rainfall whatsoever. England and Wales in particular, no measurable rainfall coming up. Just minimal amounts of rain, trivial amounts for Northern Ireland and southeastern Scotland. It's just the far northwest of Scotland that does have some measurable rainfall. And in the 10-day time frame, so this is in the 10 days from today through to the 28th of October, look at that. Again, barely any measurable rainfall whatsoever for England and Wales, just trivial amounts to Northern Ireland and southeastern Scotland. It's only the north of the northwest of Scotland that does have some measurable rainfall. So it does look as though we are going into how often have we said this over the past few months, it does look as though we are going into another exceptionally dry spell with no measurable rainfall, particularly for England and Wales, being forecast by the GFS in the next 10 days. You can find those charts at the Weather Outlook, so do have a look at those for yourself. The link to Weather Outlook is on the links page. So high pressure going to be dominating, that's the upshot of it, and there's going to be lots of dry weather coming up. You're going to leave me struggling for things to talk about again in the videos over the next few days. I suspect what we will be concentrating on is still the chance of these northerly winds in the last week of October. Will we get some? If we do, how cold will they be? And how long would they last? Maybe looking a little bit more unsettled by the start of November, and possibly still quite cold then as well, if the high pressure is getting itself going over Scandinavia. Right, been a rather shorter one for you today, because not a huge amount to discuss. Tomorrow, I will have a video for you tomorrow. I'll get JMA Friday done for you. I'm only able to do one video tomorrow because I'm going to a funeral, so there won't be the usual 2 videos for you tomorrow, but I will get JMA Friday posted sometime through the morning tomorrow. Right, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.